let's go to the ACC favorites for this year. We have some questions built off of these favorites. They're going to show you what they look like, but then we can get into maybe the questions that we can stem and conversate off of them. The ACC favorites are as follows with the odds. Clemson at plus 115 to win the conference title, Miami at plus 390, Louisville at plus 750, SMU at plus 950, and Georgia Tech at plus 1300. Obviously, Clemson, pretty heavy favorite in terms of those odds. Is Clemson's to lose, or do you think that, what do you think? Is it Clemson's conference to use? Are they that heavy of a favorite as the odds reflect in your mind, Jake?
I think so at this point. It comes down to question marks within the rosters. You can look at those 5 schools, right? Mm-hmm. Like Miami, what does Carson Beck look like? They lost some really good receivers, like the running back situation there. You lose Martinez. A lot of question marks on the offensive side of the ball. And is that secondary going to turn out to be anything good with that new Minnesota D coordinator that they bring in? SMU, yes, you bring back Kevin Jennings, but you lost a ton from last year's playoff team. Same thing with Louisville. Like, you lost Ashton Gelati. And I think some of those defensive question marks that you still have from a year ago. Georgia Tech now feels like a more for sure thing out of those 3 I just previously mentioned. But it's like, I don't know. Are we really going to – they're kind of so up and down. We know they slay the top 25 teams. But I don't know if I can trust Georgia Tech to make a run at this yet. We'll have to wait and see. So Clemson just up and down the roster. You can go through it. I feel pretty good about where they're at least comparatively to their ACC peers.
JP?
Yeah, I'll do some Miami talk because I do think that while the offense may take a step back, I don't think it's going to be that egregious. I feel like I was a little bit of a defender of Carson Beck a lot in the last couple of years, where the expectation of him was so large, and he just didn't have some of the receiving weapons that he now has at Miami that, they weren't at Georgia. That just the honest truth. Like, did he have better running backs? They were solid. They weren't the Georgia running backs of old, like DeAndre Swift and, no Sean Moreno, and even recent history, like those guys, Nick Chubb, and all, they're not running out of the backfield for him. There was good backs there, but I do feel like even with like a Damian Martinez not being there this year at running back, I feel like they have some pieces there in Miami. They're going to be good. So I think the offense will be good. Numbers may not match up. I still think they're going to be formidable and one of the best in the country. Defensively, I think Jake made a great point. Like the entire question comes back to, is a secondary better? Because consistently good pass disruptors, like great defensive ends. They've been really good in the middle. They've had solid linebackers, but the secondary is either misaligned, completely whiffing assignments, or just getting burnt. Like there's no difference there. And I think that the hire they made changes a lot of that, getting a guy in position and basic stuff. And so I think Miami has a shot to be good again. And I think when you look schedule wise, like it's not an easy ACC schedule, right? You still get Florida State, you still get Louisville, still get SMU, at VT, at Pitt to end of the year. Now I understand that that's the middle of the conference, and if you're a favorite, you should win those. But we can't just like bat an eye at 2 road games and 2 places that can probably get, a little rowdy. And I do feel like if you're Miami, and I think Parks, you had this later, and I don't want to take too much of that in the coaching realm, like consistently being a great recruiter, consistently being a good portal class, at one of these points, it's going to pop or something's going to go their way. They cannot, keep doing a situation where it feels like things aren't going their way. So I feel like that's a favorite that needs more, attention paid to. Had not read here Raf's
I'll read it. Rafi, I'm going to guess it's like Rafael Lopez is the play on it, but it comes in with the comment. The questions about Miami are more about haters hoping they do not succeed. Miami is loaded on both sides, and most fail to acknowledge it, which by the PFP looks like a tad bit of a loaded opinion there, Ralph, but I respect it. That's the fandom. That's how it works. But like Miami hasn't, they do. They had that kind of a similar way last year. They lost some of those productive pieces, including the number 1 draft pick. So I think the questions in some spots make a lot of sense, but they are a loaded roster. Like we're not saying they're not. That's why they're still picked at the top of the conference, and they lost their number 1 overall pick quarterback. And they brought in guys like that. But I'll kind of answer the question based off of the next question, which we had written down, which we all kind of already have, is how could these other 4 teams outside of Clemson's win the league? I want to spin off of Jake, what he said about Georgia Tech, which I'll get to talk about later. But like, I think Georgia Tech can be that team because they kill ranked teams. Like Jake said, they can beat ranked teams. they're buying in, like the fan base in the city is buying into Georgia Tech, and that's in Atlanta, people. Like that is one of the college football meccas for players. It's where the Hall of Fame is. Like it's a great area for the sport to be good. And I think Georgia Tech last year was really close to getting to that point, but just kind of played down to their opponent's level sometimes. But on the plus side, they played up, which is why they beat ranked teams. But like then you get in absolute dogfights where you have to have 95-yard touchdown passes to beat North Carolina on the road in week 8. So I think they're like very, very close. And when you look at all 4 teams combined, I mean, SMU's in the title game. Miami got beat by Georgia Tech to stop their undefeated season run. We saw the wins that Louisville had and how the competitive they were against teams like Notre Dame, which maybe didn't look competitive in the scoreboard as much as the game reflected. But like these programs are close. So I think the odds could be closer than what we see, but I think that also speaks to what we said at the beginning, and that's the Clemson talent level and just the experience within that roster. Any disagreements from what I said or any closing topics on these ACC favorites that you think, like, how could the other 4 teams win the league? Anybody else that steps up? But like, I could see Louisville doing it.
Yeah, I didn't know. That's what you're going to touch on, Jake?
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's any of them that I trust, I think it's Louisville, just because I trust Jeff Brom and what he can do. And he's just proven it with Plummer and with Shuck. Like Shuck was a guy I didn't ever think was really going to get figured out, and he just did. And then you get just a loaded running back room. And Chris Bell should be good for them. Colin Lacey. The offense is going to be really good. The defense just has to improve just a little bit. Like, they got to be consistent all year. Remember that team, like they lost to a weird team last year, but they also went into Death Valley and beat the tar off Clemson. So like it's there, and you just got to do it over a consistent basis.
Yeah. Going back to Miami quickly in the comments, just don't want to leave our viewers out. Tyler Van Dyke had has high Heisman level numbers before he lost his confidence. Beck is going to do very well. I don't disagree. I absolutely don't disagree. That's why Wisconsin went after him the way he did. He gets banged up, but like that was an elite quarterback. He had his turnover issues, but fair enough. Beck could be a better fit in that system. JP, your thoughts on the other teams?
Yeah, I'll just touch on SMU quick. How SMU wins this ACC is that the defensive loss of people is just refilled and the other stars step up. It's a good defensive secondary. It's pretty good. In the linebacking core, they have some pieces. Now they lose some people that get after the quarterback, but I feel like there's still solid pieces there. So that's how they get back, right? It's just steady improvement defensively and just Kevin Jennings being Kevin Jennings and not making the moment bigger than it needs to be. Yes, they got away with a lot last year in certain games, but that's just how it works sometimes.
Sure.
But at the same time, if they improve, maybe they stay out of those situations. Also, their schedule is pretty gettable, if we're being honest. Like, that's how they get back.